San Diego Association of Governments, or SANDAG, has a plan underway to build a platform bridge and a double railroad track for a nearly 3-mile stretch between Solana Beach and Jimmy Durante Boulevard in Del Mar. But some Del Mar residents aren't on board with the idea. Here with further details are SANDAG's Director of Land Use and Transportation Planning, Charles Muggs Stoll, and Del Mar City Councilman Don Mosier. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, Muggs, I know you like to be called Muggs. So there's an ongoing series of public meetings about this proposal. Describe what SANDAG wants to build at Del Mar.
Well, we really want to build 3 different elements to the project. We want to extend a second track or a double track for about 2.8 miles, as you described. We want to build a seasonal platform for users at the Del Mar Fairgrounds for special events. And we also want to replace the San Dieguito Bridge, which is nearby there, which was built in 1916, nearly 100 years old, and needs to be replaced.
Well, Don, Del Mar's City Council actually supports this rail addition. What specific benefits do you think it'll bring to the community?
The main benefit is to get cars off our streets. If more people come to the fair via the railroad, we're hoping that will replace the car traffic, which currently causes a lot of congestion during fair events.
And I understand it's also going to help the San Dieguito Bridge?
Well, the new bridge will replace this old trestle bridge. It'll increase the flow of the river. It'll raise the elevation of the bridge, and we think it'll improve the environment, the local environment, if it's done in a very sensitive way.
Well, speaking of that, what are some of the key objections you're hearing from Del Mar residents?
There are 2 kinds of concerns. One is the impact on the environment, since we've just restored that San Dieguito Lagoon and it's working a lot better. The second kind of concerns are noise, light impacts from the nighttime activity on the platform, and also the fact that the train is now going to be raised up 8 to 10 feet, so it's going to be at a higher elevation, have some view impacts, and be more in your face.
And Muggs, what is SANDAG doing to mitigate these concerns?
Well, we've been working with the community for a number of months. We came out with an early alternatives analysis that actually chose one of 3 alignments, the one that's furthest to the east and furthest from the residents. And so we've been able to make some progress already. We've been working on studies that address things like noise and light that the council member mentioned, and those studies are under review by our federal partners that are funding a big part of this study, and we'll have those out this fall, and we'll make those available to all the stakeholders and be back out to the community to go over them and to be able to finalize some plans for the project.
Donna, is the City Council pleased with these sort of responses? Do you think there needs to be more?
I think we are pleased. It took a little while for us to get an initial response from SANDAG, but then we realized how complicated this design phase is and how many levels of review there are. So we're patiently waiting for the next step, which will be this fall when you hear some of the environmental reports.
What do you see as the biggest obstacle for building this new rail addition?
The biggest obstacle is funding for the construction. The House just passed the Highway Trust Bill, which will extend funding for the next few months, but we really need a much better federal source of funding for these kinds of projects. We'd like to get this project done in the next 10 years, and without more federal funding, it's going to be difficult.
And on that note, Muggs, I know the rough estimate for this project is $142 million and counting. Where will that money come from?
Well, I think, as the council member mentioned, we don't have it identified yet, but the fact of the matter is, in our region, we've got a long history of getting projects ready to go, doing the preliminary work that needs to be done to define what the project is. When opportunities come up to compete for dollars, if you have a project that's ready to go or shovel ready, you're much better off competing with that kind of a project, so that's what we're doing here. Will
taxpayers be on the hook for any of this, do you think?
Well, the dollars that could be used, if they're federal dollars, they tend to come out of the gas tax, that sort of thing. But there's many different opportunities for funding that we'll be keeping an eye on as we move forward. But getting this work done is a key step if we're going to compete at all.
Well, I know Don mentioned we might be about a decade out. If everything goes favorably, when could you see this project starting, and what kind of timeline could we see as far as its completion?
Well, I think it would take us, if we found the money for the final design and to get it ready so that it could go to construction, that might take a a couple of years to do that work and have it ready to go to bid for construction, and it probably would take at least a couple of years to do the construction itself. So if the funding was available, we might be looking at, you know, something between 5 to 10 years if we had the funding available. But that's why we get projects ready, is so we can grab those dollars when the opportunity arises.
All right, I'm sure we'll be following this much more in the future. Del Mar City Councilman Don Mosier and Sandag's Muggs Stoll, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.